North Carolina GOP Congressman Pat Harrigan. Congressman, thank you for joining me.
Riley, great to be with you in studio.
It's an honor to have you, and I'd like to start with some of those allegations from Congressman Jason Crow. So he's making some bold accusations of the president, saying something about ordering people to shoot peaceful protesters, among other things. I want to get your reaction to that.
Well, none of this ever happened, right? And I think that's the point, is that the Democrats are going after something here that has fundamentally never happened. And you had Alyssa Slotkin and many of the others say that themselves in follow-up interviews, right? Point to one example where President Trump has given an illegal order. Well, we can't do that, right? I think it was just very poor choice for these members of Congress, senators, to put this video together, because the only way that it came off, the only way that it could have come off, is inferring that President Trump has been issuing illegal orders. That is something that just seeds confusion in the minds of our service members all across the country. It's something that divides the country, doesn't unify it. I expect a lot better from my colleagues, who I have a lot of respect for, some of those who were in that video. I think that they made a very, very poor choice.
Well, and to be generous, because that's a fair point, Congressman. What we heard from Crow is the goal of the video was just to start a conversation and to bring awareness to what could happen. I have my own ideas about what they were really trying to do, but I want to get your thoughts about this just to set the record straight.
Well, again, I think the only thing that could have been perceived from that video is the inference that President Trump has been giving illegal orders. And actually, it couldn't be any further from the truth in terms of reality, right? Every time that President Trump, which he does push boundaries, right? President Trump does do that, but we want him to do that. When he does push those boundaries and the courts kind of bring him back a little bit, what they don't focus on is he actually brings it back in line with what the courts say. It's the exact opposite of what President Trump is doing that they're talking about. They're not highlighting the fact that President Trump is actually just being a bold president, trying to achieve things for the American people, particularly in the space of law and order, crime, which has gone rampant across all of our nation's cities. I think this is something that Americans broadly want, is this bold action from our president.
I completely agree. So speaking of, Congressman, you have new legislation. And it's fascinating because it gets to the core of the problem. Systems like cashless bail, which create this revolving door for career criminals. Criminals like the man who murdered Irina Zarutska in your own home state just months ago, something we covered here on the show. I want to get your thoughts, first of all. What would this bill do, and how is it being received by your colleagues in Congress?
Well, what this bill will do is it will force out into the open the decisions of judges and magistrates that have not been enforcing the law, right? We have not been punishing criminals for criminalistic behavior. Yes. We've simply been letting them back out on the streets and then feign surprise when they actually commit crimes again, because there's been no punishment for their actions. This actually creates a requirement for dangerousness hearings when releasing or considering the release of felons back onto the street before trial. And what that will do is that'll just put everything out into the open. It'll make these judges and magistrates, their decisions, much more transparent for the people that they serve, particularly in their local communities who are going to be affected by their decision. And it'll let them be held accountable for those decisions. And if states don't comply, if localities, municipalities, counties don't comply, we're going to withhold some of their federal funding as a mechanism of enforcement, because right now the federal government has very little teeth into actually enforcing the law, even when our states and our counties are breaking the law.
That's the problem, isn't it? Is that the people who actually release these violent maniacs onto the streets aren't the ones who get the call about a son or a daughter who's been killed, or a brother or a sister, right? And there was a case recently, I believe in Chicago, Illinois, where a young girl was doused with gasoline. She suffered horrible burns by somebody who had a prior record of 72 arrests.
Yeah.
Any normal person who looks at the story says, first of all, why was someone with a rap sheet that long even walking around on the street? That person should not see the light of day again. And yet they're walking around the streets of America just waiting for their next victim to prey on. I want to get your reaction to that. And what it tells you about the current state of the criminal justice system in America.
I would certainly agree that that's a great explanation of the problem, right? Is we just have this recidivism within these career criminals that have absolutely no accountability coming in from the system. And we somehow have this belief in our cities with this liberal thought theory that if we're just nice to criminals, they won't commit crime anymore. And that's just not the case. And ordinary Americans are paying the price for that type of failed policy, right? And failed leaders who are implementing that type of failed policy. There's got to be some sort of accountability here. We've got to have folks that are in a position to do something, like we are in Congress, to step up and say, you know what, enough is enough. We have to start punishing criminals, and we have to start holding those who are supposed to be punishing criminals but aren't. We have to hold them accountable.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.